Hey, good morning. Looks like we had a little bit of a false start there, but this is Thursday Morning Live, a little technology issue here this morning. So we're going to get going. My guest this morning is going to be Michelle Kimbro, and we're going to talk about some entrepreneurial systems, operational systems you should have in your business, no matter if you're in the real estate space or in any business in general. I like this Thursday morning platform because I get to talk to more entrepreneurs, talk more entrepreneurial about building businesses and platforms that work for your business than just talking about real estate. But hey, what I want to ask you this morning though, and one thing that I talk about often is intentionality. You know, what's your intentionality? What are you looking to create today or create between now and the end of the year? I think right now we're down to about 70 days left in the year. And, you know, how are you going to end the year strong and go into the next year with a little bit of momentum? You know, holidays are coming up. People tend to slow down and back up a little bit at holiday time. And I always say, you know, this is the time of year to really ramp your business up. And if you can ramp up a little bit at the end of this year, then starting January, you start with a little bit of momentum. So think about what your intentions are, what you're trying to accomplish, and what direction you want to go in. I think this morning's conversation will help a little bit. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and bring Michelle in. Hey, good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Good morning. It's early.
It is early. It is early. It is 6:30 by me, 7:30 by you. And you're in Montana.
I am. I'm a California escapee.
Is it snowing there yet?
No, I think next week we might get some snow. But up in Glacier, they had snow. I looked up in the mountains yesterday, and they've got quite a bit of snow up in Glacier National Park.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what's the elevation of that?
You know, I'm not sure if I have an exact figure, but it's at least 10,000 feet.
It's funny because when I'll drive through the mountains, you know, maybe be going somewhere, even going to Vegas or up into Utah, and I'm always interested in what the elevation is. And, you know, so I always tend to ask that question. It's kind of funny, but hey, listen, as we get started here this morning, I want to, you know, I always start my shows with one question and like to know people's perspective. But in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Warrior.
It's interesting. You know, I asked that question. I probably asked that question 300 times over the last few years. And, you know, I'm going to write a book one of these days of all the answers and the conversation around that. But what makes you a warrior?
I think all of my life and entrepreneurial experiences and pits and everything else that I've been through, I just keep getting up and moving forward, because that is the essence of being an entrepreneur. And you've got to have tough skin. You've got to have a solid mindset that no matter what life throws at you, that you can get up, dust your feet up, cry if you need to cry, and get right back on that path and keep moving forward.
Yeah, you know, I know we all have those events in our life and where things happen and it causes us to, you know, we have a choice, right? We can either move forward or retreat. And, you know, I don't, you know, you're like I am. We've gotten to know each other really well over the last few months. And, you know, there's that determination, that tenacity that each of us have that pushes us forward. And I love that word warrior. That really exemplifies really who you are, actually. So I love that about you. Why don't you give a little background on yourself and, you know, your business, what you do, and how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually put your form asked for a title. So I put back pocket COO because that's what I do. I do everything operations. I have come out of the corporate world. I started my consulting firm 11 years ago around business process improvement and strategy and things like that. Because, I love the work that I did in the corporate world, but I really wanted to affect more businesses and help more businesses be profitable, and also help those founders and the CEOs not to be married to their business and also have a life outside of that and not feel like they're the linchpin in the business. And if they go on a vacation, everything falls apart. Or if they're putting out fires every day, that they're the ones that has to be in the weeds fixing the process problem. And that's why you have employees. So I've been doing this work for about 15 years now. I have a graduate degree in business with an emphasis in finance. So I love numbers. And then I went on to get an advanced certification in Lean Six Sigma. So I am a master black belt and I work at the strategic level with companies. And so now what I do is I help professional service organizations, healthcare organizations, that are 7, 8, 9 figures, really operationalize their processes and systems. And I love that type of work. I love helping people solve problems and understand what their business is actually telling them, because it's a lot more than the balance sheet and your profit and loss, a lot more than that. And a lot of people don't understand that. And what, in my experience, what I have seen is, you may have started out really well. It's so funny because I was just having this conversation with Tim yesterday. You have all this time in the world when you start your business to do all these things and wear all of these hats. But when you hit about the $10 million mark is when things start breaking, because you did not set up the infrastructure, meaning systems and processes for that scalability. And you as a founder is still trying to wear all the hats in your company, and it's just not a sustainable thing. So that's what I do. I help businesses break that down, get organized and streamlined so that they can have a scalable business.
So I love that. And I love that mission of what you do. I have a question. In today's environment, and I don't know, maybe environment or economic, uncertainty where we are today isn't really playing a real part in it. But what are some of the biggest challenges that the business owners are faced with today that are causing them to not scale, to not grow, to maybe backslide even in their business? What are some of those biggest challenges that people are faced with?
Yeah, that's great. So I see a lot of problems around strategy. So either they don't have a strategy, or they do have a strategy and strategic plan, but they don't have alignment with their team, meaning their C-suite team or the rest of the organization. So what that causes is everybody going off doing their own thing that they think is going to grow the company. And it has nothing to do with where the company's vision and where the goals of the company that were set is going. So now you have wasted resources, right? The second thing that I see in businesses is systems and processes. So we could have a complete lack of system and processes, or antiquated and or completely broken, because they may have worked when they first started their business. But like I said, when they get to that $10 million threshold, that's when things start breaking, because no longer are those systems and processes serving a scalable environment. And then the third problem that I see is that business owners and founders, and this is crazy, I got a crazy story around this, do not use data-driven decision making. So they're basing it off of their gut. And it could be for various reasons. It could be that, they only see metrics or KPIs such as their P&L or the balance sheet or the cash flow. And those are super important. But when we're talking about KPIs, we're talking about operational KPIs. So what is your business telling you? What is, your customers? What are they telling you? Are you bleeding revenue somewhere? I see that around a lot of the advertising metrics, that people are not watching them and they're throwing dollars at advertising and they don't know what works or what doesn't work. I had a phone call with I kid you not, a 9-figure business owner who told me verbatim, he can read a Dr. Seuss book better than he can his KPIs.
Mm. Isn't that interesting?
Crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I spent, unlike you, I don't have a lot of college education around finance, business. I always like talking to people that are smarter than I am, So thanks for being here this morning. But I had to spend a lot of time learning how to read financial statements in order to know where my business is. Right. So I've taken a lot of initiative in some classes and some education along with reading books that taught me what line items meant, right? So that I could look at that to see where my KPIs were. It's pretty interesting. How do you know as a business owner that you have the right people in the right seats on the bus that you're trying to drive? Because as a business owner, you can't do everything yourself. And I think entrepreneurs try to put all these hats on, and that's where a lot of instability comes in business growth. But how do you know when you're delegating that you're putting the right people in the right seats on that bus?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that I also help people, through that logic. And it starts with the hiring process, right? So you need to hire for fit. But if you're in a situation where you already have your team in place, we have to learn how to trust people, right? And, I've trained over 2,000 people in lean methodology and frameworks. And one of the big things, founding principles of lean methodology, is you need to trust the people that do the work, right? And if we don't have that trust, then the founder or the CEO keeps putting on those hats because nobody can do it as good as they can, right? But people need to learn through their failures. And I have a heavy background in healthcare, which, if you fail, it could be a sentinel event, right? So if you give people training and you give them some guidance and parameters and coaching, they already know where the process is broken in the business, and they're already creating solutions in the form of workarounds. So let's just come alongside them and give them the tools and some coaching so that it aligns with the strategy in the business. Now, that being said, at the end of the day, you may have some people that you need to reallocate to other areas. And I've helped companies do that. But we want to make sure that we are helping people grow and learn in the business. And we're just not throwing them out with the bathwater, because I see a lot of companies do that too. Somebody's not performing and they will cut them loose. But I always go back to the executive who is in charge of that, even if it's the CEO and they're letting go, like say a COO or a chief medical officer or another executive role. What was their responsibility and accountability of that person? Because as an executive, it is your job to mentor these people through that change and through the problem solving process. If they're absolutely not performing, then yes, you do need to move them. But as a founder and a leader, you have to learn how to delegate and inside be okay with the decisions that they're going to make. But you need to give them the parameters to work within. Otherwise you're going to end up with misalignment again in your organization.
Love him or hate him, Jack Welch, who ran GE for years, right? His philosophy was that every year he would cut the bottom 10% of his workforce. And so people knew that, hey, if I wasn't above this point in the company, I was going to lose my job for underperformance. I think that, that's a leadership, style that creates a little bit of fear in people. But Welch always also did a lot of great growth with GE over the years. And, do you have a philosophy or a thought around that at all?
Yeah, I mean, GE is rooted in lean principles, and Jack Welch was a really big supporter of that. I am not okay with laying people off. And maybe that's kind of the carrot and the stick again, right? If you don't perform, then you're out of your job. So I'm not a big proponent of that, because I think if you align your organization from your executive team down to your employees at the front line, and everybody understands their roles and expectations, and they have an absolute clear vision of where the organization is going, I don't think you need to use the carrot and the stick. I have countless stories of people that were, written up 2, 3, 4, 5 times and one step out of the door, and they were given a project within their department or their unit or their area, and the parameters and tools and coaching, and they turned that particular thing around in their department. They rose to their highest level because now they felt valued as an employee, and they were contributing to the outcome of the company. And I've seen those people go from almost being fired to supervisors and managers. So I don't think the carrot and the stick works. I think it instills fear into people, and there's a better way for us to do business. And a lot of people, when they first hear about lean methodology, they think, oh, great, here comes another company that's just going to cut our workforce, right? But because we're so efficient now. And that's not true, because when you start, working on developing an efficient organization, yeah, there may be some departments or units that may have too many resources, meaning bodies in them at that time. But as you look at the business holistically, you're going to see where there's other gaps that you can take those people and repurpose them to a different area in the organization, so that you don't end up, punting the problem downline or upstream, right? So yeah, I can't say I agree with the carrot and the stick.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, why do you think it's so hard for business owners to change or make changes in their business? What do you think holds a typical business owner, entrepreneur back from making significant changes?
I think it's because they don't see it, and they don't see it because they're living in a fiction and fantasy world of where they think their business is, or they're falling victim to the economy, or they're falling victim to they can't do this, or they can't do this, or it's this person's problem. And I think until a founder gets absolutely clear, real, raw, relevant facts, that they're not going to be able to see their business as what it is. And I think, and even in personal lives, right? This is, and you and I have talked a lot about this, about the stories and the beliefs and the laws and the rules that we develop our impressions of what the world is. Well, the same sort of frameworks happens in business. So if you are not brutally honest with where you are in your business, and where you as a founder or executive are showing up in the business, you're not going to be able to see where you need to make those improvements. Like I said, this business owner who was a 9-figure, and he's an influencer, did not know he was bleeding revenue, because he was not looking, he wasn't seeing it. And it was millions of dollars he was losing in revenue. For advertising dollars that was not doing any good. But he thought because he was making 9 figures a year, his P&L was good, his cash flow was good, his balance sheet was good, he's good. But he wasn't. Wasn't good.
So what I'm hearing you say is denial on most people's parts. They don't they know that there's a challenge, but they're denying where it is. And I wrote down 2 things, right? I thought, is it denial or is it fear? Right? Go ahead.
It could be both. And when I coach my executives, I use very specific frameworks that we work through that barrier, because it is a barrier. When you are not looking at the facts of whether it be in life or in your business, you cannot move forward. You're going to stay stuck in that pit. And so you have to get real with what you're seeing, not the stories or beliefs that you're making up in your head, but what is actually on the plate in front of you, what is real that you're seeing in your business. And so, it's denial in the fact that, people make up all sorts of excuses and they claim victimhood, that they don't have enough time, they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough money, they don't have enough space. But those are all lies, because you do. And you have to be brutally honest with yourself as a business owner so that you can start to see those opportunities or those gaps in your business that's holding you back from scaling and performing what you know that you can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the way you put that. So when is the best time for you to come into a business or get involved with a business? Is it, at the breakdown level, or is it before that, or is it at the exit planning level? Where's the best place for you to come in, get involved in a business with on the operations side?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my preference is the sooner the better. But usually when people come to me, it's because there has been an event and now they are, it's a dumpster fire, right? So they've lost customers. There's been some sort of regulatory compliance issue that's been broken. They are bleeding money and they don't know where it is. They can't scale. Their fulfillment time is getting worse and worse and worse, and they're losing contracts and customers. That's usually the entry point that people come. Exit planning is also good, or succession planning, because what happens when you are looking at selling your business, if you do not have efficient running processes and systems and you don't have those things documented, your buyer is going to discover that in their due diligence process. And that's going to be the number one reason why either they start discounting the price that you are offering your business, or they will walk away. Because when you're talking about, 6, 7, not even 6, but 7, 8, 9-figure dollar businesses, annual revenue, the people that are coming in that are going to acquire or do a merger and acquisition, they don't want a startup. They're coming in because they want a turnkey business. So if you don't have your house in order, you're going to lose money in the deal, if they even stay in the deal, or they'll walk away from the deal. So again, exit planning could be, or succession planning could be, another entry point for me. But my preference is, let's get to things before they start breaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I guess a lot of times too, as a business owner, how do you catch that, before it starts breaking? I think, in my past experiences, you notice stress in the business. You start to see these stress cracks in your business before they actually happen. And then all of a sudden they happen. You're like, oh God, I saw the red flags, or I saw this coming before. Why didn't I catch this? So I think that when a business owner sees a red flag or starts to see some stress cracks in the processes, that's when they should call you, right?
Yeah, and some other common language. If you are running around putting out fires all day, probably need to call me. If you are not working on your strategy because your time is spent fixing things, customer complaints, errors, quality issues, whatever, fill in the blanks, you probably need to call me. If you're not able to scale because you're hitting a wall, even though you keep doing the same things, but it's not breaking that barrier, probably a good time to call. And if anybody has any questions on whether or not they need operational improvement, that starts on day one. So that's my preference, because I don't mind jumping in and fixing the dumpster fires. But, if the business owner is savvy and they engage somebody like me before it gets to the dumpster fire, you can save a lot of stress on yourself. You can save your marriage, because if you've got that big of a dumpster fire, your spouse is probably really upset at you because you're not at home. Your kids are telling you that they never see you anymore because all you're doing is trying to put out these fires. And you probably got high blood pressure at this point, sitting on the verge of either a divorce or a heart attack. So I would rather people work with me before they get to that point.
Yeah. I'm a huge follower of Matthew Ferry, and one of his and certainly does some business, work with entrepreneurs and that. but his philosophy is work less and make more. And I love that philosophy, right? So that's spending time with family and, doing things that are really important to you. Hey, I appreciate you being here this morning. Thank you. I know it's early, and boy, you have just definitely poured a lot of good content out. This was awesome this morning. A couple of great things that I have to think about as a business owner myself. But hey, how about a couple of fun facts about Michelle? Now, I know you like to do hiking and some sailing. What are some other fun facts that Michelle likes?
Oh, gosh, those are like my two favorite ones. So I cross country ski, and last year I was in I was in the backwoods cross country skiing, and my boot broke off in my binding, and I had to hike out 5 miles in like 2 feet of snow. It was just awful. It was just awful. And I cussed the whole way. I guess there was nobody around. What else? Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. That's so much. I have my dog Ellie. She's a part border collie husky, and she goes everywhere with me. And I've gotten her into puzzles lately. There's such a thing as dog puzzles. My daughter turned me on to that. So I like watching her try to figure out these puzzles to get her treats.
It's funny. Well, listen,
Yeah.
how do people get a hold of you? Where can they find you if looking for some help or some insight? Just want to pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I think, you can go to michellekimbro.com. That's my website. But the quickest way and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. But the best way is just shoot me an email, michelle@michellekimbro.com, because I've got several different coaching programs and one-on-one and group and courses and all sorts of stuff that I have. So I think, send me an email. Let's jump on a call. Let's do a quick strategy session to figure out where you are in your business so I can plug you into the right help that you need and meet you in the place that you are today.
Awesome. Glad that you were here this morning. Thank you very much. I'm going to move you up, say goodbye. Will you hang with me in the back room for a minute?
Absolutely. Bye.
All right. Thanks for being here this morning.
Of course.
Hey, everybody. That was a great interview. Just talk about business operations. And, first thing in the morning, you take a look at that and you go, wow, maybe I need to change my intentions a little bit in my business or in my strategy. A couple things I want to share with you real quick. Just watch. We'll be having our annual goal setting and planning session coming up. That'll happen in January after the holidays. We just finished our multifamily annual summit, which was a huge success. Big shout out to all the speakers and sponsors that were there, along with the participants. It was great 2 days, a lot of content covered, a lot of information. And if you want a recording of that, go ahead and DM me and I'll get you a recording of that. But also my new book is out, Winning or Multifamily Investment Secrets, How to Build an Extraordinary Multifamily Platform. International bestseller, domestic bestseller. It's available on Amazon. If I can be up to you in any way in your business, in your multifamily business, don't hesitate to reach out. And also, if Michelle can help you in any operations of your business, give her a call. Thanks for being here. We're here every Thursday morning, and we will look forward to seeing you next week at 8:30 Central Time.